Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about something that is very broad indeed, and that is the idea of having a philosophical view. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because as humans, the way that we understand things an awful lot of the time is by cutting it down into chunks and understanding each thing individually and then trying to potentially make a larger picture out of it. You know, think about it like a jigsaw. If you understand each individual piece and what it represents, then it's easier to fit together with all the others. However, if you've got 50 pieces that are all just a blank blue sky, then it's harder to work out which ones go where and how specifically it's supposed to be put together. And so this is something that I wanted to touch on for a while now, purely because nowadays you see how everybody is picking everything apart. You know, big political issues, small interpersonal issues, everything gets picked apart into small kind of categories and slotted things. And as a part of understanding, it's very useful. I've done this myself on the channel where I've picked things to pieces for you guys. I've put things together again afterwards to give you maybe a better idea of some things, but also I've actually, for example, with some of the stuff on personality spectrums and things like that, or on various models that I use for profiling and so on, then it becomes a case of I haven't necessarily put those back together for a big picture at the end. I've kind of gone in and taken a look and then gone, right, well, this is the way that it is. These are these four separate things. And the thing is, I plan to do some more on those to show some more of the big picture, but it takes me a little time to get the kind of stuff done. But more importantly, with what I want to talk about here is I see it happening so often that people will have picked these things to pieces or been presented with information that has been picked to pieces, and then they won't take that information and slot it together with other things to then try and make that bigger picture for greater understanding. And this is happening so often in the world of politics now, which is something that's really bugging me and has been bugging me for a good couple of years now. And one of the things that I think exemplified it really well is Brexit. And as I've said before, my views on Brexit are far more in line with the Remain camp, and you can argue whatever you like one way or the other. I don't care anymore. I will continue to point out how ridiculous and stupid it is and how poorly planned it has been and so on and so forth. But right now I just want to use it as an example of how things have been picked to pieces, and how as a result there's this big disconnect, this big divide between people and their understanding of one another because of it. So with Brexit, you had the Leave campaign that was arguing far more about sovereignty, about far more about control, and it was very emotive. It was very focused on we want our country back. We want to ensure that our laws are then made and worked with within our country. We don't want all of the ridiculous regulations that are supposedly harming all of these things that we've been told are being harmed by these regulations, because the EU has been scapegoated to no end over so many things. And then you've got the Remain side, who also were not being very good at what they were doing, but they were arguing far more for the economic side of things. Oh, well, this aids in trade, it aids in the movement of people generally, but most specifically the movement of labour. You know, I'm sure people who have been watching the news have seen all the trouble that the NHS may very well be in, purely because we've had so many European nurses jumping ship because it's no longer a nice or safe environment that they can count on, a stable one that they can depend upon for their livelihood within this country, and as a result they've moved on from it. But so you've got the core of those two arguments, and both of them became scaremongering, both of them became populist and emotive in so many different ways, and both of them in many cases were wrong in what they said, or had points but their solutions to those issues weren't the best available to them, and even when this was pointed out to them, they ignored it. I'm reminded most specifically of when Michael Gove, who was with the Leave campaign, very specifically said that people are tired of listening to experts and they don't want to listen to experts anymore, and as a result we should ignore them, we should just focus on what we want, in spite of the fact that that's basically saying that anyone who devotes their life to understanding and imparting information on a topic can now be completely ignored if it doesn't agree with your worldview, which is a very dangerous thing to say, and an even more dangerous thing to follow through on as some kind of philosophy for life. But philosophy is the study of more general and fundamental problems, and the general problem here was one of not just national identity, but of the safe course and stable course for the future of a country. And it was one that wasn't particularly well addressed by either side because of the way that they went. And they became very emotive, and they separated out this issue into two things: sovereignty and the economy, and then they didn't look at where they connect. And this is the problem that I have. You've got people who are pulling these things, pulling all manner of issues to pieces, like the Brexit campaigners on both sides did, and then they don't put it back together as a big image to help people see the way forward. They don't create a vision from what they are saying. And as a result, you have this very ignorant collective. You have this ignorant populace, and they're not necessarily ignorant through any fault of their own. It's just the fact that they have been presented with a very certain, very specific set of things, and then they have not been drawn along to look at other stuff afterwards, or look at a more wider picture to pull in as much as they can. And so here's where I want to really kind of talk about how we need to reconnect these things. Yeah, for example, when I was in school, I got told off so many times because when I was doing A-level, I was doing biology, physics, chemistry, and psychology. And in that, physics informs chemistry, chemistry informs biology, biology informs psychology. It was a very simple, straightforward line to me. It was all one thing, but it was looking at the different, separated out mechanisms so that they could be better understood. But the whole point was to put them back together, right? That's the whole, it's science and things like that are about learning about the world and understanding it. And so that's where I wanted to look at things, and I got told off for it because obviously in an exam paper, if you're trying to explain things from outside, using information from far outside, in a system that is purely there to try and make you conform and focus on a set of standards that are put in front of you instead of allowing you for that greater acceptance of the things that are going on in the world, it is not something that they look particularly kindly on because it doesn't work within their little box. It doesn't allow them to put you somewhere in their system, and they get annoyed. And as a result, when they get annoyed, they don't try to expand things or allow you to expand. They simply go, you don't fit in the system, and they push you out of those boxes. But then, as a result though, with the Brexit campaign, as my main example, it wasn't just a case of being pushed out of a system if you try to use the larger kind of world idea to approach the problem. It was if you espoused so much as anything from the Leave campaign, the Remain campaign hated you. If you espoused anything from the Remain campaign, the Leave campaign hated you. If you were sat in the middle between those two things, is it any wonder that that about half the country didn't vote? There was so much in the way of rabid and fervent support of either side on the emotive aspect that any other kind of discussion around it, especially presenting facts specifically, either in regards to accepting good ideas from both sides and saying, well, can't we just implement these together? Can't we work on developing these together to make the best of both? It was one or the other, and now it's become a case of since the politicians don't know what they're doing, and they're not taking this large world view, and they're not taking in all of this other additional information that would help them potentially, and it's become almost a Brexit at any cost. And you've got the people who supported it quite fervently at any rate, going, well, it never was about the economy for me. Yeah, there are probably going to be shitty bad times, but it was all about freedom and sovereignty and self-worth and things like that. When that doesn't help anyone, well done, pat yourself on the back, you feel better about yourself. You've finally reached adulthood and can stand on your own 2 feet without any validation. Oh, sovereignty and control. Well, actually, the control mechanisms of most of the world are wrapped up in such stable but also unmoving machinations that no wonder it's a wonder when anything gets done. And so, you know, complaining about that is pointless, because it happens everywhere. If you want to improve that, improve the entire system, because anything that affects anyone else affects us, because yeah, we're stuck here on this tiny rock together. But as a result, I want to put it to you guys, the putting the examples aside for the moment, when it comes to discussing things, when it comes to picking things apart, you need to make sure that there is a bigger picture. You need to make sure that you understand things so that you can paint that bigger picture for someone else, so that then you can start the conversation. Because if you're having, as with whatever other example I give, if you're not on the same kind of page, if you don't have the level of understanding of the problem, the component parts of the problem, and then how you can put it all back together as a solution, then it doesn't matter who you're going to talk to about it. It doesn't matter who you're going to work with on it, because they probably won't understand it either. They probably won't have that appreciation of both the big and the small to help you or help themselves. And this is why when I see on YouTube, I see other people who are complaining about Brexit or the various issues that certain minorities face, or even issues within the computer gaming kind of world, where you've got critics coming out against games that don't really deserve it at all. You know, neither side is willing to take a look at that bigger picture. Neither side is willing to take a look at all of the small components and then how we can put them back together as a solution. You know, and so ways that I think that we can move forward with this, well, as I've said before, discussion is helpful, trying to make sure that you can agree on certain groundwork before you start a debate, start a discussion with people. You know, that's important. But if not, then at the very least we need to try and make sure that we can maintain a level of calm, so that we can appreciate what's being said, that we can take in all of that information, that we can separate it out and then take those components and rework them into something that's functional. Because as I've said before, don't worry about good, don't worry about bad, just worry about being effective, be functional, get it done. But anyway, that's just my 2 thoughts on this, because I try to approach things by questioning and by having that as much knowledge as possible, as much information as possible pulled in, so that I can see as many of the little moving pieces as possible, so that then when I'm asked for a solution, when there is a solution that is required, I can then take those building blocks and start building the whatever it is that is required to make it work. Yeah, be that building a set of relationships between people to better facilitate something in their workplace, or be it building some understanding for a client and some clarity for them over some issues within their own lives that they are being very hard on themselves about. Be it something in my life where my computer is deciding to have a fit at me over trying to record these videos for you guys. You know, it all comes down to understanding as much as you can about those small parts, so that then you can put it back together for a solution afterwards, and having that appreciation that everything, whilst everything isn't necessarily connected, lots of things can impact stuff that seems completely detached from it. You know, and it's taking account of where those things may happen, so that then you can deal with it. That's the empowering thing about this kind of angle, this point of view, this appreciation of so much. When something comes up, you can always deal with it, because there's always something that it was in some way connected to, or in a relationship with, or affected by, that you've potentially already come across, and therefore you can go in and you can look at it and you can break it down and you can put it back together again, and it will work. Anyway guys, that's all I had to say on this for the time being. Maybe I'll get to another video like this in the future, but who knows. Or maybe one way or another, you'll see me breaking stuff down and talking to you guys about stuff, and the way that we can build it back up into something that works anyway. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to watch me today, and I'll see you guys in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video at all or found it useful, then please drop me a like and subscribe for more, and I will see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.